what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast, episode 55 with Charlie and Justin. We are coming to you on a nice, breezy, cool, and rainy Saturday evening.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's a little bit late for us to record because, we're going to essentially record, go home, edit it up, and release it right away because it is Saturday night. We release every Saturday.
Yep.
So, how has your week been?
It's been pretty good. I got to deer hunt a little bit this week, which
Relaxing,
was nice. Be a lot more relaxing if I could kill something, but, whatever.
I don't have the patience for hunting. There's two things. It's difficult for me to have a lot of patience when I'm sitting doing nothing. And then I also hate the cold weather.
Yeah.
So that's like probably a pretty bad combo for me.
Right.
Plus, I never grew up in a hunting family, so I have very limited experience. My brother does it, but for me, not so much.
I've never really been a gun hunter, but it's Ohio gun season. It's that iconic time of year where it's right after Thanksgiving. It's in this, especially in our town. People take off school and work and everything for this. So I never have been a big gun hunter because for the obvious reasons, there's a lot of walking involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like thinking about it this year after I remodeled the house, and it was like close to gun season. I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna gun hunt this year some.
Well, it's interesting to kind of come full circle because initially when we first started the podcast, one of the stories you told as one of like the defining moments and when you knew it was time to make a change is when you were fishing.
Yeah.
And you said that, finding clothes and equipment was difficult and the walking was difficult, in particular when you went on that one trip and couldn't physically do it.
Right.
And I thought that that's neat how it kind of comes full circle because you sent me a Snapchat during your hunt and said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing here, but you said something along the lines of, I've never been able to walk like this and hunt like this before.
Right.
So
Wednesday I went, and that was Wednesday I went, and it was like, I don't know, in Ohio here in the East Liverpool area, we have like, 4 or 5 inches of snow we got.
Mm-hmm.
And I hunted for like, about 6 or 7 hours. And I walked, I believe it was like 4.5 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
And I was like, I ran a lot over the last couple of years, but just to go out in the woods and walk around and up and down mountains and valleys through thick brush for 5 miles is something that has never, ever been on the radar for me. It's not something that I could ever have done.
Well, there's something uniquely primitive about it too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, but over the past couple of years, I've been like increasingly more interested in doing like ancestral type things, like the barefoot stuff.
Yeah.
Like I go everywhere barefoot, like walk it. Like there's times when I literally don't wear shoes at all. Like I'll get in my car from my house barefoot, drive to the gym barefoot, go in the gym and train, and then leave barefoot.
Right.
Obviously with snow on the ground, it's a little bit more difficult, but like I just have this weird fascination now with, doing things in a primitive sense.
I was going to say, is it a primitive thing for you? Like, do you like to learn like primitive tasks and techniques? Like,
yeah, I'm not really but I wouldn't say it's like a hands-on thing. I think it's more from a physical perspective.
Okay.
So like, I'm not like, you ever seen that one guy on YouTube that, gosh, I don't even know how I could summarize him. He like builds like pools and like different like in-ground things and like huts and stuff, and he does it all with like nothing, like just like rocks and stuff. Like I'm not interested in any of the hands-on type stuff or like crafting or being self-sufficient from like a building perspective. I just like, looking at the body from an ancient perspective and what the human organism was designed to do, how it was designed to function, like with the feet, for example, the barefoot, like when you're running and hunting and climbing, toes need to be splayed out and spread, not quite as, movable as like your hands, but there should be some similar functionality there.
Right.
Because it was meant to grip things and to grab things. And I find myself doing that in everyday life, like, because I'm barefoot a lot of the time. And when I drop something, like I'll reach over with my foot, grab it with my toes and lift it up to my hand, which sounds silly, but like the human body, evolutionarily speaking, was designed to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like even little things like being out in the sun and like the grounding of having your feet, on the ground and skin contact with that. Like, I don't know. It's really fascinated me as of late. And I'm probably in my own description, like a minimalist by nature. So like, I like being very bare bones with things. Like I like simple things. I like my diet being simple. I like my house being simple. I like, not that I don't like luxury, but I like simplicity. And so I continuously find myself going back to doing simple things. Like I'm not over analyzing like certain aspects of cardio. I just like walking outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And that's me. I say like when I go for a walk, I usually tell people I'm going to go do my cardio because it is a cardiovascular exercise.
And that's why you're doing it too.
Right. But I agree. I wholeheartely like and enjoy walking and running. And actually, ironically, I ran last night. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But that Snapchat I sent that to a whole bunch of people. Like probably my whole Snapchat feed, which I have people on there that I have no idea who they are. Natalie will share somebody, and she'll just share like, their Snap code or Snap name. And if the clip that she shares, they're like really cool in or something, I'll add them. I have no idea who these people are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I have a lot of people, and I sent it to like a ton of people, and I bet you I got, I don't know, 15 responses. I'm proud of you. You're doing awesome. This is great. I wish I had your drive, all of that. And I was like, I just can't believe the amount of people that I don't even know that are willing to reach out and say things that are nice and cool. Mm-hmm. So that was just like something, and that sparked the thought to me for today to talk about mental health and self-worth.
Yeah.
For us, like, because we talk a lot about the gym and our diets and everything else. But I really feel like there's another aspect to success in those areas.
Well, you have to look at things holistically. So, like, what is success is, in my estimation, it's being sound in mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
Right? So we focus a lot on the body stuff because that's kind of in our avenue. That's kind of in our lane of what we do. You with your endurance sports and exercise, me with, my physique sports and exercise and everything in between that we kind of, find enjoyable. And I think that, like you said, it's important to touch on the mental side and spiritual side because those are two things that, you can't have success in just one avenue without finding balance in the others.
Right.
You can temporarily, but then inevitably it's going to end bad. So like if you could be the most mentally sound person in the world, but you can only be mentally sound for so long until your health starts to go. Mm-hmm. And then, your life can be compromised. Right. Or you can be physically in phenomenal shape and, have wonderful workouts or be a competitive bodybuilder or an endurance athlete or whatever. But if your spiritual, and emotional health aren't there, then you're going to crumble.
Right.
So I think it's important to find balance and like talk about balance between those because usually when you talk about success and self-help and stuff like that and self-care, at least for me, I think of physical stuff. That's always just what my mind automatically goes to. Right. Like I understand the importance of the other ones, but just at surface value, my immediate response, my mental response is to look at something physical. Like, oh, how are you taking care of yourself today? What healthy habits did you do? Well, then when I think of what my healthy habits are, I say, oh, well, I ate this and I went for this walk and, I took these supplements and I did my workout today and I was barefoot and I took a cold shower and, I used my organic soap and just, it's never anything emotional that immediately comes to my mind, even though I know how important it is.
Right.
And we've both kind of advocated for mental health awareness and its importance. And it's kind of like, it's actually starting to gain traction now. Where a lot of professional athletes and famous people are coming out about mental health awareness.
I'm so happy to see it too because it's a real thing. Like people don't realize how bad people have it. Like how mentally bad people have it. Like I didn't even realize how mentally bad I had it. Like how bad I was and how hard I was on myself when we did like episode 15 and 16 when we told my story from start to finish. I went back yesterday actually and listened to episode 15 and I was listening to it and I was like, man, like the perspective I have on where I came from and where I'm at today now versus a year ago when we recorded it or almost a year ago when we did that is completely different.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's really important to constantly look at yourself and say, and tell yourself you're worth it. People see me post that on Instagram a lot. I'll just say you're worth it. No hashtags, no person like I'm not directing it towards any individual because I'm directing it towards you, to everybody. Because it's important. Like somebody's told me at one point that I was worth it and it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember who it was, but it was a random person said, "Hey, you're worth it. Like, do what you do." And it literally changed my life. So I think it's super important to talk as much as we can about like self-help and self-care. And like, this is an area where I'm like very, very green. 'Cause like this whole journey, I'm starting to realize that I haven't done a whole lot of that. Like, I say it, but how much of it have I actually done? Because I found myself recently not being able to, like, I have a pair of 46s. We talked about them at one point, blue jeans that are 46, size 46. Those were amazing for me to wear. I still fit them. They're a little snugger than I'd like. But I'm wearing 48s, you know what I mean? Like, comfortably. A year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I was in bib overalls that were modified.
Yeah.
In a few months, I dropped enough weight that I could wear a size 60 blue jean. And I can remember talking to you about them size 60 blue jeans with almost having tears in my eyes. Why can't I remember that? Like, and that's something that just, for me, right? So I'm trying to like equate the thing to everybody. Why, if I can't remember how happy I was to get into the 60s and stop beating myself up over one size now, what is somebody thinking about something that actually matters?
I think you have people probably that would have problems with both of those. So you probably have a group of people that are on one side of that extreme and the other side of that extreme. Yeah, and I think it's important to address both. There's probably one group of people that is like you, where they've made a ton of progress. The progress eventually slowed down because it's inevitable.
It's supposed to.
Yeah, it would be impossible for you. If you lost another 227 pounds the year after you lost it, you'd be dead. So it has to slow down, obviously. And then they get in a mind state that's probably not. It's that's not healthy. It's less than ideal because they're not reflective enough on what they have accomplished, and they're going to start beating themselves up mentally. However, I also think that you may have, interestingly enough, a group of people on the opposite end of that where they're almost like too much I don't want to say too much self-worth because I don't know. That's kind of a misnomer. I don't know if there's ever such thing as too much self-worth, but they're giving themselves too much credit for what they've accomplished.
Yes.
And that's what's keeping them in a bad mind state because if I'm 500 pounds and I lose 10 pounds and then I'm 490 and then I live in the happiness and the joy of being 490 forever and I don't have to lose any more weight this month because I already lost 10 pounds.
Yeah. Now, that's the yo-yo thing.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're happy at 490, that's fine. But there's a lot of people who will fake that happiness and say, yes, I've lost 10 pounds. I'm truly happy with that. It's kind of like, in essence, when you first started about the last lie you've ever told.
That is so weird because I was literally just getting ready to say that is where the last lie came from because I would tell everybody. I would lie every single day. Yes, I'm losing weight. Yeah, I'm dieting. Of course. I'm drinking Diet Coke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm dieting. I'm doing this. Or I lost 25 pounds. They don't need to know it was 9 freaking months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in my head, like, my lies. So the last lie was when I'm done. I'm not lying anymore. If I'm drinking Diet Coke, I'm drinking Diet Coke because I want a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm not drinking Diet Coke. I'm not drinking Diet Coke to lose weight. You know what I mean? Like, so that's how wow, I'm sorry. I got a little amped up there. But, like, yeah, you took literally, like, the word was getting ready to roll out of my mouth. And so I'm kind of interested to see where you were going to go with the last lie. I'm sorry.
No, it was just, that you can lie to other people, but you can't really lie to yourself. And that's where you need to find balance. So, like, you look at people and it's like, how do I find balance between being happy with what I've accomplished, but not being satisfied with what I've accomplished?
Right.
And therein lies a little bit of, a precursor to I don't want to say a potential mental health issue, but things that can cause mental health issues.
Yeah.
And like when you think about self-worth, again, there's very radical extremes there. People could have no self-worth, or almost, again, this is kind of a paradox to say too much self-worth, because I don't know if that's an actual thing, but too high of a perception of self to where it comes across as, cocky or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all about finding balance. And when you look at self-care as a whole, what advice do you have, just off the top of your head? Like, what things come to your mind if someone were to approach you? Because I know you get a lot of people that approach you on a regular basis for help with different things, just because you've overcome a lot. And they say, Justin, I'm struggling mentally. What do I do? And I know that's a loaded question.
It's not. I have a very easy answer for that, because the very first thing I tell anybody, even if they don't ask for help, if I can see that you have like that look on your face, or somebody told me at some point, they said they see your smile in your eyes, and I didn't understand what that meant, but now I get it. Like, you can see somebody smiling in their eyes, or you can see somebody crying on the inside, or hurting on the inside, just by the look on their face or what they have. And then you get that now, especially with these face masks everybody's wearing. You have to be able to judge emotion off their face, right? Off of the 2 inches we actually get to see of people.
Yeah.
I tell people to smile. I can see your cheeks. I know you're not smiling. Smile, because you're worth it. Like, take 13 seconds out of your day and smile and say, I'm worth it. And then tell somebody else that. That's where I tell them to start. Because a smile, because even if you're not smiling for yourself, you're going to help somebody, right? When I smile, I smile all day long. Even when I'm mad, like, I try to smile, because it's harder to be mad than it is to be happy.
Yep.
Because happiness is like what we're supposed to be. It's like a euphoria. So I guess my answer is smile.
See, for me, I think of one answer is easy and one answer is not so easy. Or one situation is easy, one situation is not so easy. So if someone's in a particular set of circumstances where they're in a situation where they're not happy, or they have some type of emotional stress that's far beyond what they think they're capable of enduring, and they're in a situation where they need out of the situation, it's easy to give tangible advice to someone who's able to identify the root cause of that.
Right.
So if I'm 500 pounds and I'm morbidly obese, I know that I'm disgusted with myself and I hate how I look and I have a plethora of self-image issues. That's an easy fix, because we have tangible, quantitative ways to fix that. Right. I know exactly how to fix that. Wherein lies the issue is when you have people, and this is a large chunk of mental health issues, where people don't know why.
Right.
At surface value, they have everything you could ever want, and some people are just suicidal, and they don't know why. Whether it's like chemical, neurological, whatever, there's some type of issue going on that people can't get a grasp on, nor can they come to grips or identify what's causing them to be that way.
Ooh, I didn't think about that aspect when I answered. So I guess I probably shouldn't have cut you off.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, it's so, because I always think about that, where there's people out there who have gone through things that are clear, like, catalysts towards them feeling crappy.
Right.
And crappy is a severe understatement.
Yeah, I mean, that's the PG version.
But when you have someone who is suicide, like most people, I don't want to use most. I don't want to throw superlatives out there because I don't really know, but several people, a lot of people, who identify themselves, or they can self-diagnose as having some type of mental problems or a mental health issue that they need to address. I would say a lot of them probably don't understand why they're that way.
Right.
And I actually, with some of my clients that I work with on a regular basis, we run into issues that are causing them problems, but we don't know where those issues, those mental health issues, are coming from. Sometimes it's very therapeutic just to be able to talk about it.
Right.
Hey, I can't fix it. I don't know where it's coming from, but maybe if I sit down and talk to someone or share my feelings with someone, it'll be a little bit easier, a little bit better. Just almost like, I don't want to kind of make the analogy here, but it's like the old saying, facing your fears.
Right.
If you face your fears and don't run from them and hide from them, it's easier for you to adapt and overcome them. And I feel like suppressing different emotions or feelings that are of the mental health variety, I think the more that you try to suppress them, the less likely you are to overcome them. Like if you're having a panic attack, like, and you're cognizant of what's going on, come to grips with that. And I don't want to say necessarily be welcoming of it, but understand I'm having a panic attack right now. I'm going to live. It may feel like I'm going to die temporarily, but I'm going to live, and I'm just going to not necessarily embrace, but I'm going to face this right now and understand that I will be okay after this. It's a very hard thing to navigate, because if we were able to give definitive answers on how to fix mental health problems,
there wouldn't be any.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any.
So, and that's the one thing, is like, it's all just advice, and it's all just, and this is where I think it's the most beneficial thing for like us, and I don't mean us, Charlie and I mean us people, to do for people that are struggling, or to go any farther, a step farther, is to do for everybody in case they are struggling. It's just be kind.
Yep.
Courteous. You know, they say chivalry died. You're like, there's like a saying, but chivalry's dead. Why? And chivalry doesn't mean you're courting a woman. To me, shit or a man, whatever. It's 2020. Chivalry to me is just being kind, holding the door for a group of people that are coming in right behind you. Mm-hmm. Hey, how you doing? Have a nice day. Or, you know, when somebody asks you how you're doing, answer them. Don't just give them the hand, you know, or that little wave. Like, even if you're on the phone, I'm doing good. How are you? You know, it's that's all it takes. Is, I can't tell you how many times when I was really depressed, if somebody was kind, it made me feel better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it makes you feel better. So obviously that's not a fix-all. That's not going to correct the issue, but that's a step in the right direction. Could you imagine if the 400 or 500 people you see on a daily basis, you know, around town, were all happy, not ripping and roaring down the main drag of town, just driving like a normal human, you know, using their turn signals, you know, letting the person that's been sitting at the light or at the stop sign that should have a light go instead of just keep driving. Mm-hmm. If all them people were to just take a second and be kind and do something for somebody just out of the spur of the moment, how much happier would people be that are perpetually upset or sad or angry?
I think that's an important annotation right there with mental health awareness. Is when you think of mental health awareness, I don't necessarily think of that as bringing awareness that there is mental health, or there are mental health issues out there. Right. I think that everybody's very well aware. Right. When I think of mental health awareness, I mean being aware of how many people are actually undergoing something like that, because then it would give you so much comfort and a little bit more understanding that you're not alone in this. So I think that, like, that community feel of being nice to everybody, talking to everybody, holding the door open for someone, all those different examples that you used, I think we would all more likely be inclined to doing those sorts of things if we understood how similar we really are.
Right.
Like, there are a lot of people, most people are going through some type of emotional or mental or physical battle.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in college, I dated a girl in my first 2 years of college, and I was with her through a pretty tumultuous time of her life, where her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, suffered through breast cancer due to a late diagnosis because of a misdiagnosis of a previous physician, and then I was there for her mother's passing and for the fallout of all that. So I was essentially there from start to finish through that entire thing, and it taught me a lot. It sure did teach me a lot about humanity. And my girlfriend at the time, who I still have conversations with, I don't want to say regularly, but, you know, multiple times a year we'll talk to. And she had something that she's always said since then, and it was pretty profound because it's always stuck with me, is she said, be kinder than necessary because everybody's fighting some type of battle. Now, I don't know if those are her words exactly or if she's paraphrased from elsewhere, and I'm sure that there's been multiple people that have said something along those lines over the years. But But it's so true. And I think that mental health is a good way to think of that, where you don't know what people are going home to. So that person that you yelled at the grocery store because you felt like, they cut in front of you in line, and then you guys get into an argument. You don't know what type of day that person had, nor do you know what type of day that person's going to have when they get home. And I've tried to become increasingly self-aware of that with myself. And then not only that, but because I had a bad day doesn't mean that I can take it out on other people.
Right.
So that thought of, treating other people kinder than you probably need to just because you never know what they're going through, that's always kind of resonated with me. Now, to say that I do that all the time would be a lie. There's times when I get upset. There's times when I yell when I'm on the road or get upset at a grocery store or customer service of some sort. Like it's hard.
We're humans. I mean, and that's another aspect I think of it too, is recognizing that you are human. So when you make a mistake, if it warrants an apology, be able to apologize.
Yeah.
If it warrants just letting it go, just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Livingston at one point told me, and I've mentioned this on previous podcasts, I think he actually talked about it when we interviewed him several episodes ago, is, neurologically or chemically speaking, when you have an emotional response to an event, he said the first 20 to 30 seconds, he said, and it's probably, statistically showing that it's less than that, but that first, let's say 30 seconds to round up, that first 30 seconds of an emotional response is chemical. After that, you're choosing to dwell on that issue. And I know we've talked about that on previous episodes, and it's happened to me and I've actually been self-aware of that and conscientious of it, where somebody cuts me off and I get real mad. And then, normally I want to chase the guy down and tailgate him and scream at him. And then I have to remind myself, like, dude, you are choosing to continue to be upset about this right now.
Right.
And if you choose that anger route too often, you're going to affect a lot of people that, who knows, well, they don't deserve it, but who knows what they're going through regardless. No one deserves that.
I guess when I think of that, I think of the scenario of like the angry spouse or in a argument at home, because we all have them. I mean, when you have two human beings living in the same dwelling, you should not agree on every single topic. Like, you should have some back and forth. I think healthy disagreements are great. But if it gets heated, that initial, like you said, is chemical. So you yell, you get loud. But then you make that conscientious decision to punch a hole in the wall, knowing full well that you're going to have to fix the wall.
Now you can reflect back and say, oh, well, that was emotion getting the best of me. And no, it wasn't.
No, because the emotion goes out. The emotion is chemical.
Yep.
So the chemical response goes away, like you said, 10, 20, 30 seconds. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure somebody knows the answer to that, but how much time? But that emotional response goes away, and it's we make a decision that this is how I want to react, regardless if we know we are. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like that this was a topic that we should talk about, especially the time of the year and the climate with COVID and the holidays. Like, we already talked a little bit about Thanksgiving.
Yep.
But we have Christmas coming and New Year's, and it's just a lot of stuff where not only just the not being able to be with family, but I'm thinking like, I've worked all the way through the coronavirus pandemic. Financially, I'm still kind of feeling it. I can't not imagine these people that haven't worked.
Yeah.
Like, there's people that haven't worked at all for months. What are they going to do? Not talking about Christmas presents. Like, where's their next meal coming from?
Yep.
And as a soon-to-be parent, I'm already worried about where my daughter's food's going to come from. So these people that have 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, grandma living at home, I don't understand how, like, I do understand, actually. I shouldn't say I don't. Like, I get it, why people are so depressed and why people are killing themselves, because they feel like there's no way out. I'm here to tell you, I can't feed the world, but there's a way out. You have to ask. And that's the shoe's on the other foot here, right? It's not just you have to ask, we have to offer. Like, as people, we have to offer to give somebody a hand.
Yep.
Like, or at least a shoulder to cry on, or an ear to talk into. And I said it on our 52nd episode. I want to be more available for our listeners. This is it. This is the accountability train right here. Like, if you need something, I'm always available.
And I think that the reason you can do that is because you have an abundance of empathy. And so we're actually going to go to commercial break now. And then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about that empathy and how, like you said, you can start the accountability by putting yourself out there for other people and not wait for them to come to you, because I think that's very important. So we're going to touch on that right when we come back from this commercial break.
As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well.
And we are back from our commercial break. So, Justin, prior to our break, we talked about empathy. We talked about putting yourself out there for other people. And I think ultimately that's really where mental health starts.
Yes.
Is you have to reach out for people in order for them to understand that they can reach out to you. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's one thing that you're a pretty big supporter of is, hey, if anybody needs anything, reach out to me, whether it's financial or mental or fitness advice or whatever. You want to make yourself available to people. And you said before break that was one of your goals for this new season or this new year of our podcast, was to make yourself more available to listeners.
Right.
Likewise, with myself, I want to figure out how I can help people better. I don't know why people are not always, but increasingly more reluctant to reach out sometimes, because sometimes I wonder if it's fear of judgment. Sometimes I wonder if it is just simply finding somebody that they're comfortable enough to open up to. I'm not really sure, but I always want to try to make sure that you and I provide a platform for people to reach out to us and kind of talk to us if they're going through something. Now, I will say firsthand that I may not have the best advice to give. Maybe sometimes the only thing that I can offer to you is 2 ears to listen. Mm-hmm. And for some people that may be therapeutic. So I don't know exactly what I could offer to people, but if they feel some degree of comfort just by reaching out, then by all means, please do that.
Right. And that's where I'm at with it too. Like, I don't have answers. Like, anybody that's been listening to our podcast understands that I'm not the most educated person, right? I book smart anyway. So like, I don't speak exactly great, but where I lack in that, I think I make up for in passion. Mm-hmm. And I have a passion for people that I don't know why, honestly, because people haven't always been that cool for me, right? But I think that's why. I think I want to change the world. And I know that's a profound statement, but I think one person can make an impact enough that people will start to change. Mm-hmm. And if I could try, I think if I attempt to do that, right, that is changing the world, because some people aren't attempting it.
Yeah.
So
I think that one of the biggest compliments that we could ever receive would be for someone to reach out to us and tell us that we help them.
Yeah.
Not just in the sense of, with a fitness advice or nutritional advice or time management advice or whatever. I mean, although that does mean the world to us, I think it would just be so much more impactful if someone to reach out and say, hey, every time I have a bad day, I listen to your podcast and it helps me, or something of that sort. I think that people can really underestimate how much of an impact they have on others without outwardly recognizing it.
Yes.
Like, take musicians. or artists or groups or bands or whatever, where sometimes listening to a particular band will get you through years of your life in the midst of mental and emotional turmoil.
Right.
You know, where I just listen to music and I'm able to zone out, or whatever that escape is. Sometimes it's that escape comes because of another person. And, you know, I'm not self-righteous enough to think that our podcast could be that, you know, escape for people. And I don't want to assume that it is, but like, I'm hoping that as we get better at this, maybe it will be.
Right. I'd be honored if it was. I would be like, we say it all the time. And I know we sound like a broken record sometimes, but I'm just so enthralled of the people that do listen.
Yeah.
And the comments we do receive. And that's why we keep doing it, because it's like, you guys want it. And I want to make sure that we give as best we possibly can. So, and that's why I said, like, you know, boldly on air that if you need something, call me. Call on me. Like, anytime, any day. Anytime, I told somebody the other day, I said, anytime I won't answer the phone is if I am, what did I say? Oh, it was a good one too. Oh, if I'm in a fire or I don't have service, because for some reason my phone does not have service anywhere anymore. So I've been struggling with this cell phone reception in town lately, and I don't understand why. But yeah, I said, anytime I'm not going to answer is if I don't have service or I'm in a burning building.
Yep.
And I will call you back.
And I think that one thing we can do with this episode is just give a little transparency between you and I about what we do for self-care, for mental health, for emotional health. What are some of the things that you do that you've noticed success in as far as keeping, you know, bad thoughts or, you know, an overabundance of negative emotions at bay? How do you go about navigating that kind of thing?
Cardio, man. It sounds stupid, but I always do cardio when I'm feeling down, because it's something that really helped me come up. But what I do, like, and that's just, cardio is the generic word. Even if I'm at work and I'm feeling down, I'm entitled to a 30-minute DOT regulated break. So if I'm feeling that down, which doesn't happen very often, I'll stop, set my brakes, go on break, and I'll just get out of the truck, leave my phone on airplane mode so nobody can call me for 10, 15 minutes, and I go for a walk, and I listen to worship music, and I sing, which is terrible. Nobody wants to hear that, but I sing out loud. I don't care where I'm at, and I feel better. I feel better. Like, I don't know, I think, you know, praising and worshiping and exercising and just the endorphins and the feeling of doing something that I never could do. And not just that I couldn't do the walking, but in years past, not that I was ashamed of my faith, but I wouldn't do that kind of thing outwardly in public.
Yeah.
You know, it's just something I would never do. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. And it's my go-to. Like, I tell everybody, and that was my second answer to your question earlier, was I tell people to smile and recognize that they're worth it. But the other thing is pray on it before you make a decision. That's what I did before we started this podcast, before I started a weight loss journey. I prayed on it, and it happened. I don't know that that's the reason, but I'm going with it. You know what I mean? So I know that that's the reason, but you don't need to know that that's the reason, but I'm going with it. So that's my thing. That's what I do.
For me, I don't know.
What do you do?
I kind of, this is interesting. I don't really try to find something to take place of it. Essentially what I do is I just find a way to distract myself from it and try to get hyper-focused on anything that isn't what my feelings are.
Okay.
So, for example, one thing that I'm huge on, and for, you know, a myriad of reasons, but especially this, is short-term goal setting.
Yes.
The reason that I'm so like just captivated by short-term goal setting is because it allows me to give physical effort and mental and emotional effort to something. So if I am focused on a particular goal that I need to accomplish, let's say I need to lose 10 pounds and I want to do it in 3 weeks.
Okay.
I will do everything I can and focus all of my energy towards that. So I feel like the time that my mental health is the greatest is when I'm the most busy and the most distracted. Now, I don't know from a long-term perspective if that's healthy or if that's the right thing. Because I told you earlier, sometimes it's important to confront those feelings and see those feelings and greet them and say, I feel anxious right now and it's okay. Or, I have terrible thoughts in my head and it's not okay, but I'm going to sit there with those and understand that I'm going to get through this and that's okay. So it kind of is counterintuitive to some advice I gave earlier. But sometimes I don't want to say I try to suppress them, but I don't think about them.
Right.
If I have, 10 hours straight of nothing but clients, I'm giving 100% of my focus and energy to them. So I don't have time and I don't have energy to focus on any negativity because I'm giving back to other people or focusing on something.
Would you say that it's fair that your healthy practices in life, like your self-care practices, like you were saying, your organic soap and you talked about your bathroom routine,
Mm-hmm.
your showering, the way everything you do has a reason, the cold water and all that. Do you think that might be part of your self-care?
Certainly. Yeah. Because, from someone who's experienced severe valleys, like, hills and valleys
Mm-hmm.
of, the ebbs and flows of some emotional and mental health issues, I can say for certain that one of the coping strategies that I've had has always been to try to, almost like obsessive compulsive disorder. I had clinically diagnosed a compulsive or obsessive compulsive disorder in high school. And there were a lot of things that stemmed from and that stemmed into. But one of the reasons why is because I tried to make everything in my control as perfect as it could be, because then things outside of my control wouldn't seem as bad.
Right.
So if I took care of my body and I took care of how clean my room was and I took care of my grades and I took care of my performance in sports, I took care of all this stuff and all of it was perfect, then I wouldn't have to worry about the things that I couldn't control as much. Because in life, when something happens, it snowballs. Like if I get a flat tire, I can't control that. That's out of my control. But then the flat tire seems worse because, my flat tire and I'm stuck here. So I'm going to miss my meals and I'm already behind on my food the past couple weeks. So I'm not making the progress in the gym that I should make. And I'm not happy with how I look. And I'm going to be out late tonight and I'm not going to get home in time to see my wife or my girlfriend or my boyfriend or whoever. And our relationship isn't good. And when I get home, I have all these things to do. And so the flat tire makes everything seem so much more compounded for the worse. So for me, I try to fix everything in my life that I can, so that way when I do experience things that are outside of my control, I'm more mentally equipped to deal with it, because that's the only negative in my life right now.
Right.
And that's kind of taken me years to psychoanalyze why I got to that point. But like I said, basically I was taking my life, making everything I could as perfectly as I could, or as perfect as I could, so that way I wouldn't have much to worry about. That's I don't know, one of the things that I pride myself on is being pretty well versed. I tell people that I'm not great at anything, but I'm pretty good at a lot of things.
Right.
So I always try to be someone who's intelligent. I always like to be someone who's in shape. I always try to be someone who's nice. I always try to be someone who's funny. And it's not me trying to be more than I am, but I always try to be good at everything that I do. Mm-hmm. And I think that offers a nice little distraction for me also. I know I kind of went on a tangent here and got away from the original question. But I think that you and I, it's a good exercise for you and I to share what we do or what we have done, just so people have some actual takeaway ideas. I
really like that.
It's great to talk about mental health awareness, but then we need to talk about mental health fixation. How do we fix this? Mental health repair.
Right.
Now you talked about too, I want to transition away from mental health a little bit before we close up shop here, because this was something that you talked about and mentioned to me off air, and I thought it was a brilliant idea.
Okay.
You said, and And it kind of fits into what we're talking about because you said you want to be there for the listeners. Mm-hmm. You want to have more. And I would love to, just interrupting myself there for a moment, I want to try to have more interaction with the listeners. Well, I love times a million when people listen to our podcast and post about it.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. Like, that makes me feel so good. And then it's kind of like, it's also pretty cool because it's like, it's natural advertisement too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it strengthens our outreach. It shows people that, you know, that people are listening. And also, you know, it also shows that we're worth it.
Yeah.
Because people are listening and people are engaged. So we want to do as much as we can to engage with the listeners, whether that's, you know, I want to get back to some question and answers, want to get back to some guests, that sort of thing. One of the cool things that you came up with as an idea to engage with our listeners would be for them to pick Justin's next physical endeavors.
Yeah,
in a sense.
So there's a couple levels that we were talking about, and I didn't get all the way through it. So definitely, I need to put some boundaries, a smidgen, right? Obviously, don't come at me with 100 milers or something because I'm not there yet. I will do, if you come at me with 100 miler, I will boldly tell you that I will do one. I just don't know when. But what I want is, I want our listeners, and originally I was going to say 3, you know, the first 3 to send me a message or you a message for me to do it, I would do it. But now I'm thinking more to be more interactive, right, with our listeners and with the listenership, and to better affect this mental health thing is send us things that you want me to do, rather it be like a Tough Mudder or a particular 5K that's sponsored for a specific reason, or a 5K that's important to you because of a specific reason, rather it was your first 5K after you lost weight, or it's the one that's on your list, your bucket list race. I would say up to a half marathon right now. I'm down. I don't know how much of the running I'll be able to do of a half marathon, but I'm down. But I want to get specific here. I want to do things with our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go out and somebody, I would love for it to be somebody who's never ran a 5K, and they say, Justin, will you run a 5K with me?
Yeah.
Yes. When? You tell me when in 2021 and give me enough notice, I'm setting it up.
I think, you know, to interrupt there again, I think that it would be great for me too, not just to do those things, but like you said, do more with our listeners. I want to meet some of the people that I haven't met before.
Yeah.
Now, we obviously have a very large contingency of listeners that are from our, I don't want to say our friend circle, but our acquaintance circle, people that we know, people in our community, people at the school, people at the gyms.
Yeah.
That we have already interacted to some degree on a regular basis.
Right.
And those people are not any less appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it would be a very interesting thing to get to meet up with people we don't know.
Yeah.
If someone's listening to this message and you've never met Justin or I in person, or you don't know us, reach out and we could set up, a workout or set up a cardio session or, go to dinner if you're local, or set up a Zoom session just to talk to you and to meet you. I think that really, in order for us to do something effective with this podcast, I think it's now time for you and I to transition away from getting better at the podcast. Yeah, we still want to get better while we can, but I think better isn't just about talking points. Better is about
doing
action points. Yeah, doing points for sure.
Get it done.
So, I don't want to say perfected because that's definitely not the case, but we've gotten much better at this podcasting.
Yeah.
So now I want to do something, tangible, something where we can actually go and meet people, something more interactive than us posting a podcast and you listening.
Yeah.
More communication, more dialogue, more stuff like that with our listeners, because I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So basically, to wrap that up, is if you have a race or an event that you want myself to do with you, let me know. And I want it now. I want you to tell me now. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited to hear what my schedule is going to look like for 2021, because if it's 5K related, my daughter Sutton will be in the stroller with us. So I am so enthralled with the idea of already planning races to take my kid to and introducing her to the people that make me happy. You know,
yeah,
our people. You guys are our people. So, like, you guys make me happy. You know, I'm perpetually smiling right now. I wish we were doing video because it would make it so much better, except for the crazy stuff I do with my hands, which will be funny when we actually start shooting video. But yeah, so shoot me or Charlie. If you don't have me on Instagram, shame on you. No, I'm kidding. You know, if you don't have me on Instagram, it's at Justin_TNQ_Masters. That's JUSTIN_TNQ. That's Team Never Quit _Masters, MASTERS. And everybody knows at No Excuse Charlie. So
very simple, very straightforward.
And it's not just simple and straightforward; it's profound. I've always liked your handle. It's a good one.
I'm glad you think that.
So yeah, send us a message, and I'm in. Like, obviously, I have a newborn on the way in February, so the space is going to be limited. I'm going to try to do 5 events next year, I think is the number.
You say that now, and it's going to be way more than 5.
I know.
I'm going to remember this conversation. You're going to have way more than 5.
Right.
But
yeah, so because I'm confident that COVID is going to go on a downswing, and we're going to have way more in-person events where they're not doing the whole, not so much social distance, you know. Because that's my favorite part of finishing a 5K, man. Running across the finish line and having all these people that you don't even know telling you how great you did and giving you a hug and throwing that medal over your neck, you know. And it's just, that is an environment that people, ironically enough, with mental health issues, need.
Yep.
You know, I needed that. When we finished the Star Treks and we came around that last bend on the track, under the lights, on a football field, on a track, you know, and we came through there and they were playing that, I think it was the Rocky soundtrack, and the crowd, there was like literally a crowd of people in the stands going crazy. That was insane. Like, I've never had that before. So, oh man, I think people need that. So let me know and I'll do it with you.
And I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up, to talk about, you know, all this mental health stuff. And to summarize, it seems like all of our talking points involved human interaction.
Yeah.
So whether it's mental or physical, I feel like human interaction is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you reach out to people, whether it's Justin and I or not, human interaction and dialogue and exchange and the emotional social response is so directly correlated that I feel like you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't reach out to somebody today or offer yourself up to somebody today or network with somebody today to try to form a stronger connection, you know, going forward. Because Justin and I would like that from you, and hopefully we can get more interactive with our listeners going forward.
Yes, I couldn't say it better.
So with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast. This has been episode 55 with Charlie and Justin. We look forward to hearing back from you guys next week and getting more interactive with you as the weeks go on. Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'll push to the end.